This is me. Growing up, I had the same dream as many other kids of wanting to become a professional football player. But how exactly did that happen? From a young age, football was basically anything that I ever thought about whilst I was a kid. Back then, nor me or my family had any idea just how far this footballing journey would go. At just age 6, I was scouted and invited to train at a club named Crewe Alexandra, whose academy was one of the best around for developing young talent. Players such as Danny Murphy, Dean Ashton, and more recently, Nick Powell. Between the ages of 6 and 8, I would train once at Crewe on a Sunday whilst also playing for my grassroots team. At this time in my life, I had no idea how far my career would go. I was just simply a kid enjoying his football. However, at age 11, things started to get a bit more serious. Yes, that is the GOAT, David Moyes. At age 11, I transferred from Crewe Alexandra to Everton Academy. This was a whole different environment and a step up in facilities. However, due to a number of different reasons, I then returned back to Crewe aged just 14. And after 4 years of hard work, we had finally signed our first ever professional contract. I achieved the dream at age 6 I would never have thought possible. But after just 1 year in the professional game, I was unfortunately released. This is where things got tricky. Really tricky. I signed for Leek Town, who at the time were in the 7th tier of English football. In hindsight, this probably wasn't the right thing for me to do in my career, but I wanted to go out and experience men's football. At this point in my life, I also wasn't making any money, so I had to go out and venture into the big wide world and get myself a job. I worked on a building site behind a bar, I tried my hand at barbering and even worked in an office, but in all honesty, none of these jobs gave me the same satisfaction that football did. After a year at Leek Town, I then moved up a division to be playing part-time football with non-league outfit Nantwich Town. At the time, Nantwich Town played in the Evo Stick Premier League. I was still really struggling adapting to part-time football whilst trying to juggle work in a full-time job. And throughout this year, this was the first time in my footballing career that I'd ever debated quitting football. Realistically, I didn't ever see myself getting back into the full-time game and I was beginning to lose motivation. At the end of that season, I was really contemplating hanging up the boots and going into something completely different, and I thought potentially about needing a change. But after that season, I made another step up the ladder. I signed for Altrincham FC, who at the time played in the Conference North. And at this time in my career, this is when things finally started to change. Although the level that I was playing at was still part-time, the standard that I was now playing at was a lot higher than my previous 2 years. As a result, this made me want to push myself even more off the pitch to give myself the best chance of playing and getting into the team. And my enjoyment for football was finally starting to come back. At this stage in my career, I was still not really too focused on getting back into the full-time game. I was more just grateful to be enjoying my football once again. In that year at Altrincham, we won promotion from the Conference North to the Vanarama National League. It was a slightly surreal feeling as this was actually during COVID, so there was no fans in the stadium, but still, it was great to be a part of a squad that achieved their first ever promotion together. That following season, we were playing in the National League and there were some huge teams in the league with us, teams like Notts County, Wrexham and Stockport. And although Altrincham was still only part-time, this gave me more and more motivation to push and work harder both on and off the pitch because I knew the standard of the level that I was playing at. And at the end of that season, something happened. Altrincham turned into a full-time professional team. Now, if you'd have asked me 4 years ago when I was working on a building site whether I'd been back in full-time football 4 years later, I would never have said yes. But after years of hard work and perseverance, I was officially part of history as Altrincham went full-time for the first time in the club's history. The following season, I was absolutely buzzing to be back in full-time football and continued my good form. And in January,
it's obviously been a stressful few days, but just buzzing to be here now. And
officially made the step up to the Football League as I was signed by Rochdale on deadline day. The whole day was a complete surreal experience, but I was just delighted to get it all over the line and be officially back in the EFL playing full-time football. Although it was a very tricky second half of the season as we were aiming to avoid relegation to the National League, I had some unbelievable experiences along the way. One of my personal favourites was returning to my old club, Crewe Alexandra, who released me at the age of 19, or the feeling of officially making my first ever EFL debut. At the end of the season, it wasn't quite the outcome that I'd hoped for, as Rochdale were unfortunately relegated to the National League. At the end of the season, it was time to rest and recover, which took us on to summer, and I was a little bit apprehensive as I didn't quite know what my future in football would look like. In that summer, Grimsby Town triggered a release clause in my contract, which meant that my dream of playing EFL football was kept alive. Now, this is the first time I'd ever have to move away from home in order to play football, but I was just delighted to still be playing a full season in the EFL. With my first full season in the Football League, there were tons of lessons learned and tons of highs and lows. I was playing out of position for a lot of the season, but still managed to rack up over 50 appearances that season. A few personal favourite moments of mine were getting an assist against Bradford live on on Sky Sports or my assist at Notts County. However, one of my favourite moments was scoring my first EFL goal away at Salford on a Tuesday night in front of a packed out away end. The support that you got from Grimsby fans was unbelievable, both home and away, and this made playing games even more special and intense each week. Towards the back end of the season, we had another huge game where we visited my old team, Crewe Alexandra, once again. We won the game away from home, and I also scored my second professional goal of the season at the club where my football journey first began. After a tough season, we finished just above mid-table, and that led us on to another summer break. After this season, I knew I needed a complete physical and mental rest, as it was one of the toughest seasons of football I'd been involved in. It's always so important as a footballer to be able to switch off so that your body is fully rested and recovered for the following season. Whilst I was on holiday, I received a call from my agent to say that there was interest from a team in League One, and after 2 weeks of intense pre-season training at Grimsby, I had officially made another step up the Football League ladder as I'd signed for Crawley Town, who'd just been promoted to League One. As a young boy who had dreams of becoming a professional football player, I never would have thought my career would have panned out exactly like it has. Although there's been plenty of highs and lows throughout my career and my pathway has looked very different to other players, I genuinely wouldn't change it at all. At age 19, after being released from full-time football, I didn't really know what my future in the game was going to look like, and in all honesty, this was a pretty scary feeling. At times, I never thought I was going to get back into the position where I am today. However, if you have a plan and are willing to put in the work, then anything is possible. Over 4 years ago, I was playing in the depths of non-league whilst working on a building site, not really very happy with the position that I was in. Fast forward a few years to now, at 28, now playing in League One, I'm glad I put in the work to get to the position that I'm in today. Now is all about working just as hard to see what the rest of my football journey and career looks like. As mentioned, at just age 3, when I first took interest in football, I never thought it would take me on this journey that it has today. But I wouldn't change any of that journey for a thing, as it's made me into the person that I am. If you're someone on a football journey or wanting to get into the full-time game, make sure that you have a plan in place, put in the work, and anything is possible.